it's the OCD cross between the ADHD. So I'll go off on a rant and my brain will go there, and I've got to pull it back to actually focus on what you're saying. But I'm always like 3 steps ahead, but my voice can't keep up with my brain. But I'm super tidy as well.
You've got really bad writing because your brain's...
Doctor's writing, it's terrible.
That's right.
It's absolutely.
Mine's the
I
same.
have very
Because your
bad
brain,
writing.
your hand can't keep up with your brain.
Oh,
You've got nice handwriting.
I think I've got awful handwriting. I took my time, and that's like individual letters.
I used to write in block capitals.
Well, what's
I just talk now, because years ago I worked with Steve Jobs to come up with talking to phones, because my grandma was blind, long time, 97, and I just talked to the phone.
Okay.
That's why it knows my voice now. But at first I would say Dear Dara, who was my lawyer, and it would come up as Dear Diarrhea. So it would ring me up, and I said, "Well, you're a lawyer. You're full of shit anyway." So
I did notice when we first met, you all send voice notes.
yeah,
Always
not
notes.
voice notes, but I talk the text.
Yeah.
I don't press that little thing. I press the text thing just quickly.
I've started to do it on the WhatsApp because it's really handy, because I'm going, right, I'm halfway through something, you go, why don't I just record this on voice and send it, and then I can get all of the words I want to say out instead of like
the only thing I don't like is when you're in a public place and you haven't got a headphone and someone sends you one of those messages where they're talking, whereas I just press and it says you have saved 32.3 hours this week by not going. Yeah, correct. And also saved my eyes.
Yeah.
I don't know how we do our WhatsApp messages in a voice note.
Oh, it's wild.
You know,
Give me your phone, I'll
the
show you
trick
in a
with
second.
WhatsApp, though, is, I didn't know this for ages. If someone sends you a 10-minute message, you can play it at 1.5 times.
Yeah, you can.
It's like fast.
Oh, can you?
Fast. Yeah, you've got to hold it, and then it changes the speed. And you can do it up to 2 times. But
There's always these things that there's a way of doing it. There's a hidden thing. Can I swipe it to the left? I found it the other day. I was like, I'm YouTube, Spotify, disappear. It slides to the left and just goes in a little arrow on the left. I'm like, why don't they tell you these things? You know what I mean? I've got to go on YouTube.
Because you need 7-year-old kids to tell you.
But that's it. But my kids don't. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Keep away from the phones.
Totally.
Well, it's like now, studio setups like this, you just don't get them anymore. They basically stick an AirPod in, put your phone on, stick it up there, and then...
Oh, we deliberately created this as like a set.
No, it's lovely.
It's nice.
It's really nice.
Giving us high praise, Heather.
Yeah, no, I thought you were just going to come along and do the usual on Zoom or Teams, so it's nice.
We had like half an hour conversation freaking out about like the quality of things and ISOs and noise and all this kind of stuff, because you get into the weeds.
Are you picking up the music outside or not?
No.
Shouldn't. These mics are nice.
We've had a band on, and the deliveries on the morning's a problem. Trolleys coming in. We've had to stop it once for the trolleys, but
digging up the road, all that stuff. And
we had a guy with a nail gun, and then there was a still saw, but the lad stopped working and let
What's going on? You've got like some dead bodies next door.
But we're just going with it and going, yeah, it's part of the vibe.
I showed Heather around the site.
Yeah, what do you think?
Before we came in.
Lovely.
And you were shocked at how close we were at the Stadium of Light.
Yeah. Mad. I did a big food donation over there, and I didn't even know you were here. I gave them, 100,000 cans of some meals. But yeah, it's great. It's really close. It's only 15 minutes for me from.
You've got links to this neck of the woods, haven't you? Or you're over this side of the water.
I was brought up in Washington, right in the middle.
Are you Washington?
Yeah. So half my side was Sunderland, Mackems, the other half Geordies.
Let's say Washington. Is it Washington?
No, Washington. It's all trees and roundabouts.
And no one knows. And well, there never used to be trees when I was there. It was brand new.
Oh, so you were like fresh.
We were Sulgrave, like the dodgiest area.
Sulgrave?
Sulgrave's like straight off the dual carriageway.
Yeah.
To and right, it's the dodgiest area. It's got all metal bars all around it.
I've got a few stories, but I can't tell them on this podcast.
I was in the school. I went to High Usworth, the school opposite, then to Usworth Comprehensive, which they knocked down.
So you're born in this area? I
was born in, and I should be posh, in Aldershot. My mum and dad were in the army. And then they ran away because the parents didn't agree with them getting married and came up here. So I was about a year old.
Well, that's,
And straight to Washington? Or did you go elsewhere first?
Straight to Washington, but he was always on the run, my dad, so we were there. Then he would get the bailiffs in, and then we'd go to Donwell, and then he'd get the bailiffs in, and then we went to Biddick, then they came in again, then we went to Lambton, and then he went to prison.
Really?
Wow.
So it's a bit of a childhood, isn't it?
Moved around,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
And
you
then
must have learned some skills from back then, though.
I did.
How
Started
old
my
were you
first
then,
business
though?
when I
What
was
age would you
15.
have been? When your
Well,
dad
I left
went-
home when I was 14. He went to prison and I ran away.
Yeah.
What about your mum?
My mum had disappeared when I was 9. She'd left him because he was a violent bugger.
Really?
Yeah.
And left you as well?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. In those days, women got no support.
Mm-hmm.
So she went to go to the social services and there'd be nothing we can do about it.
No?
In the 70s, yeah. So she had enough and ended up running off and became a top psychologist. All the fucked up people are psychologists. It's hilarious. And went down to London and then became a homeopath, acupuncture, which is what I got into natural things from her 40, 50 years ago. And then she'd lost her leg at the same age as me and they reattached it. And then they basically didn't give her heparin and she died at the Middlesex Hospital in London.
So
And
did you get it? Were you back in touch with her, though? After
Oh, yeah. When my
okay.
dad went to prison, then she turned up at the school because she was so afraid of my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And she'd married a West End theatre actor who was in Crossroads called Charles Stapley. And
Crossroads?
yeah, he was the antique dealer in Crossroads. And but I was there for all of 6 months, went to school and then just ran away, lived on a fare. Then I was homeless on the streets for about 9 months. Then eventually got my first job. Croissant shop.
How did you, I mean, being homeless for that period of time, how did you survive?
That was probably the easiest time of my life, because in probably my whole life, because you got no bills, you got no responsibilities. You just nick some food from the supermarket. It's cold outside.
So where did you live then?
Under the Waterloo Arches before they pulled them down.
Yeah.
And then I woke up one morning, this tramp was urinating and it was going in my hair, and I was still quite vain because I used to nick some lipstick from Boots. And I used to have 10p showers in Victoria Station.
Really? Because people they go to like a gym membership and live in a car. No, that's
Well, that's what I did when I was
in
a ski
car park
racer.
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, when me and Ruth, 2010 onwards, we had a camper van. And we just Ruth. Yeah, when I was doing the Guinness World
Who's
Records.
Ruth? Sorry,
my best mate.
No, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I was doing ski racing, we would just live in the camper van, and it was too cold in the winter to shower with the outdoor shower tap, and we just go to the gym, do exactly that. It was great.
Yeah. Gym,
and then you just recycle. You'd wash your clothes in the shower in the gym, and you just turn them over. It was great.
How do you go from that to modelling?
I used modelling accidentally. So I was already on my third business. And then my first boyfriend, my second boyfriend, because I had one called Stephen up north when I was younger, sent pictures off to the Daily Mirror in swimwear. Basically, and they rang up in the old-fashioned telephone days in the 80s and said, you've won the Mirror Dream Girl competition. I was like, what on earth is that?
Did you not know the pictures had been sent?
Didn't know anything.
Wow.
And he said, I looked at him and I went, what? And he went, and I said, I'm not interested in modelling. And they said, no, you get to travel the world for free and this and that. And by that time, I'd already had a stick-on bra business, imported frozen yogurt before I was vegan. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, traveling the world for free. And then, because in those days you had digital, you didn't have digital photography. So you had the tungsten light in the morning and in the evening. And then everyone just sat around drinking coffee or smoking cigarettes back then, whereas I was bored to tears. So I would look around to see what things I could, import into the UK. And that's how I started doing different businesses.
Because modelling's all about killing time. It's the art of nonsense, I say. Because every time you're on a set and you've got models, it is the art of nonsense, talking about nothing.
Yeah.
And it is quite a skill, talking about nothing with a bunch of strangers you've just met.
And when they call models dumb, it's the highest paid job. It's the only job, should I say, that women get paid more than men. So how dumb are they?
Yeah.
But for me, I didn't like that world at all. I wasn't your typical model. And
how long did you last doing that?
I only did it for a couple of years, but I got tagged with it.
That's the thing, we know you as a model.
And I was just like 17 to 20.
Really?
And then never modelled again until I did a charity event in my 30s. For when the Twin Towers hit. I was over in New York and then did a big fundraiser, and then they asked me if I'd modelled for Macy's, and it was on all the... It was funny because when you're young and you think, oh, modelling, lovely, which I should talk anyone out of, when you at those age, you think, wow, being on a big billboard, that must be exciting. Yeah. And when I did get on the billboard, it was hilarious because it was in Broadway, it was on, Times Square, all this thing, but all the money was going to charity to help the firefighters after the Twin Towers and everything. And it is funny, as you get older, you just realise how nonsensical any of that world is the more you experience.
I bet you must have had some bizarre requests over the years from a modelling point of view, jobs and...
Well, the first one was in India, which I'm going to India next week, actually.
Okay.
Just have a sip of that. And I thought, at that age, you're thinking, oh, Milan, Paris, da-da-da. And then they say India. And I was like, that sounds a bit too exotic for me. But anyway, I said yes. And I was only meant to go for 2 weeks. And as soon as I came out the airport, there were these kids with no legs. And this is when I still had 2 legs, scooting along on the little skateboards, begging for money. Well, I didn't realise it was an organised crime then. So I'm getting my money out going, oh my God, this is awful.
Yeah, because you're feeling sorry
and then I felt, of course, we hadn't seen anything like that coming from Washington.
Yeah.
And then they just... this guy came up behind, put his hand on my shoulder and said, no, don't do that. Everyone will just climb all around you. It's an organised crime. Yeah. So they got me and shoved me in the car and took me back to their house. And I thought it was like going to be a proper modelling thing. And it wasn't. It was size modelling, where you basically stand all day getting your wrists and your arms and everything measured
for clothing.
For the clothing, for the European market. Mm-hmm. So that was a bit, okay. But then I fell in love with India, and I've set up clinics over there, and I've been there most years. I worked in the Gujarat earthquake disaster when it happened. The Indian people are the most giving. They're either disgustingly rich and frown upon those castes below them, or they give everything.
And you find there's very little in between.
Very little.
From my experience.
I mean, I turned up 23,000 people dead in Gujarat from the earthquake disaster. And they're giving you their last bit of rice. And of course, I had all my vegan protein bars in my backpack and a mosquito net I wrapped around because you can sleep outside. And I'm like, no, don't do that. But we took loads of equipment from the UK because the governments, no matter who you vote for, they're all stupid, basically closed down all the hospitals and then didn't say... okay, all the good equipment moved to the bigger hospitals, and the big hospitals didn't want to take that because that would reduce their budget. So we picked up millions of pounds worth of brilliant equipment, which is disgusting for the taxpayer here, but heart machines, all sorts of stuff. And I sent it over to Gujarat, and then we just rebuilt everything and fitted up 8,000 people with prosthetic limbs.
So something like that going over there, seeing all that, huge culture shock. Mm-hmm. What about the food kind of thing? Were you vegan at the time as well, or not?
Yeah, I was well vegan by then. This happened in 2001. I'd worked in the war in the former Yugoslavia. I'd worked in Afghanistan. I'd worked in Iraq. So yes, a natural earthquake disaster was probably the most horrific thing I've ever seen as far as mass death. But I had worked in the former Yugoslavia for many years when I was in my early 20s, before I was vegan. And seen loads of massacres because I was just accidentally on holiday and then got involved in the former Yugoslavia. But I became vegan to heal my leg because I was working on the front line and doing mine clearing training. And we set up the International Trust Fund when the war broke out. And then Yugoslavia split up, and then we came, because the currency devalued so rapidly, it would be like you getting your wages and the month later, they were worth 2/3 less. How are we going to survive? And they had a currency called Tolar at the time. And then they decided to break away. There's only 2 million people in Slovenia. And left Serbia and Croatia panicking. So they came and bombed Brnik, which was the airport of Ljubljana, Slovenia. 10 days war, and that was it. But then they moved down to Croatia because they wanted to scare them into not declaring independence, because that's where the waters were, that's where import-export is, that's where the money is. Serbia is much more inland, and it just grew and grew and grew. And because we'd just come out of the war from Iraq, John Major and everybody weren't interested in jumping in another war. And outside of, specific people, we go in, help countries that we can rape their goods from. So we want to take their oil, their gas, their ingredients. We don't help countries that we can't have something back from, as much as we pretend to be charitable.
Like a colonial identity.
There's 14 wars on at the moment. All you ever hear about are 2 of them. So I found that absolutely disgusting. And in the end, I ended up working with the Americans, Hillary Clinton. They then came in, bombed the bridges and stopped the Serbs going over, and then the war stopped. But mainly the reasons that we get involved is because it was so close to Europe and it couldn't be ignored for any longer. But had they come in immediately when the war started, all of those massacres wouldn't have gone on. And it's a bit like now, just allowing and, keeping a step back from Palestine and Israel. It's just so ingrained and innate in what's gone on for centuries and decades, and there's so much anger, and it's mainly because it's run by men. I'm sorry, but it is.
Yeah, the thing is, you've seen
ego's involved.
You've seen so much of this. You've seen so much war. You've been around the world and all that kind of stuff. So, does it wear you down? Like, kind of seeing all of this stuff, and what do you do? And what's your involvement? Are you more caring about, obviously, the people? Is it the food supply, or is it the war itself? But you can't really do anything about that. So where are you with that?
Well, I mean, I've been involved in human security for 35 years, and I've done a lot behind the scenes to make things happen. But to make things happen, you have to put your head in the opposition's mind. Otherwise, nothing happens. While you sit with your thoughts, your beliefs, your rants, and your ego, which most heads of state do, then nothing is achieved, because it's all about how they're perceived, and they're in government for short terms. We sit and slag off loads of countries around the world when actually Britain and America, we are the worst in the world, what we do. And I've always said that openly, which is why I'm amazed I'm still alive, but it's true. And I've seen it all. I've seen what we do. We literally just take and take and take and take, and only help if we're getting 3 times more back. So we have like a debtors list. We go into countries that don't have wars and create little wars to actually make an excuse to go in. And certain countries, that's come out as proof, like, nuclear Saddam Hussein. Everyone forgets the Americans trained him and put him in there in the first place. And only when he turned around and said, hang on a second, why is this country not keeping its own goods? The whole attack started to happen. Not saying he was a good person. They're all pretty much a mess. But it's never black and white. And the people who believe media are the ones having the wool pulled over their eyes the whole time. And you have to keep an open mind on everything. It's a bit like this election with Labour. All of them, if you took 25% of each party with the knowledge that I have in the world and actually put that in common sense, something would move forward. But all we've done now is we've had the bad news of Brexit, which why the heck would you give naive public a vote on Brexit when you haven't given them all the information, all the devastation of manufacturing, export, import, everything, jobs, it just absolutely duped. It's the same now with the Labour government. They're meant to be for the working class people. And I'm in manufacturing, and I'm supporting, I'd say, 42 family businesses in the Northeast right now who employ 4 or 5 people. Okay, minimum wage should go up. Who the heck can live off minimum wage? But the small companies are now going to get this national insurance, PAYE, and all the pressure on them. And they're going to go under. So Labour think they're creating something that's going to support the economy, but they're actually going to destroy the foundations of the economy, which are the family businesses. There's no common sense. And these people who make these decisions have never ran a business from scratch up.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean,
they go in and study in uni and they know nothing.
Where are you with the farming?
Oh, 2 things. So this is what's really funny. So my half-sister, who's a biochemist for Procter & Gamble, and she's a real conservative, I was shocked that she actually said the farming subsidies should be removed because she is married to a farmer.
Really?
And I said, what? And she said, because there's 2 types of farmers. There's ones that are really struggling, who really need the subsidies in, mountainous rural areas and things like that. And then there's others that are actually a corporation that own loads and loads and loads of land and are building lots more houses and driving around in 4x4s, and not that anybody shouldn't have that after a load of hard work. So it was fascinating listening to someone that I thought would be absolutely opposed to the removal of any subsidies. Obviously for me, I work with loads of farmers, but in the ingredient agriculture area, and helping them convert from dairy farms that are never going to make someone healthy and are never going to do anything that's going to save the planet, because obviously I'm plant-based. But just from an economical point of view, they don't make any sense whatsoever. You can literally have oat milk. Finally, people are accepting oat milk, almond milk, all these different, maybe not almond milk because it uses a lot of water, but you know, in the Northeast, we grow a lot of oats. So why aren't we supporting oat farmers to grow more oats to feed more people? You know, when I got Starbucks to take oat milk on many years ago, people didn't believe that that would actually turn, and you're going to see dairy going down and down and down. We've been the biggest suppliers to Applewood, who were owned by Northland, who were owned by Tine, and they would never have anything plant-based, and we replicated their cheeses. Now their plan is to go 100% plant-based, and they're a big Norwegian cooperative because all their subsidies have been removed, which is what I said will happen 5 years ago. Subsidising farming is inefficient, but you need to subsidise the farmer as an individual to help him onto the next stage of what needs to happen. It's a bit like the coal mining days. You look at Margaret Thatcher, she did loads of great and loads of crap, like all prime ministers. You can't do everything perfectly. However, if you're about to close down, because that was my youth being in the coal mining times, I'm 57 last weekend, then you have to say, okay, I know it's going to be difficult for you, the camaraderie, the community, everything in the coal mining, but the future of coal is polluting. So we're going to give you this job. It's going to pay you this much more. We're going to train you up for this. There was none of that common sense. It's just like having, you know, your legs chopped off, and I can get away with saying that. And that's what's missing in all the governments. There's no common sense. There's no putting your mind into the voter.
All farmers are being diversifying anyway in what they do. They've got to do something else on the land to make money in, because they're not getting.
But there's no strategy to back any of that. That's the problem.
The thing.
And
That's
what you've experienced. There's no plan to make that happen.
What we did in Austria was we started to build greenhouses and grow algae. Depletes CO2 every 1.5 tons you grow, depletes 2.5 tons of CO2. We'd convert it to rapeseeds and oats and things, and we're making 12 to 15% EBITDA and proper margins. When you manufacture dairy and the side effects of all that's caused, put that to one side, it's a loss leader, and the taxpayer is paying the difference to subsidise those things. So we've got to get into running things efficiently like a business, but supporting that transition until they can get there. Nobody should be working their backside off, earning peanuts and struggling.
Yeah, it's not going to happen, though, is it?
Not with these. I call them dinosaurs. Yeah. I mean, I did a speech the other day. Do you remember you introduced me to the Gulf Food Show?
Yeah. We went together.
And Oscar. Do you remember Oscar Wendell? So he's a Swedish guy, and I went back the next year and the next year. Yeah. And he invited me to come and speak at Parliament, and then this speech afterwards. And it was getting together 30 people with certain voices and opinions and ability to bring about change together. And I just told her an honest speech, as I always do, that basically until all these dinosaurs are gone, nothing's going to change, because you go in the House of Parliament, and even if you become an MP with good intentions and you are well-intentioned, it's like, hey, John, if you're not voting for me, I'm not voting for your thing over there. And it's just a joke.
We call it the blob, because they just get sucked in, no matter how well-intentioned they are and well-meaning, or even how visionary they are.
Yeah.
Once they're in, it's very, very hard.
Did you watch The Blob when you were little? Is that why you call it The Blob? You know what else The Blob means, don't you? You got to be careful
I know
on that.
you do, but you know, it just sort of...
Every time we broach this subject, Chris sends me the picture of The Blob. He's got a lovely kind of animated image, and he's like, see, this is it.
The Blob.
This is The Blob. It's exactly what's happening now.
I'd call them the Day of the Triffids, which was a similar time.
Oh, I love Day of the Triffids.
Yeah.
I just, the thing is, I mean, politics triggers me like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, totally.
and it's a never-ending conversation with the same results
Rhetoric,
and answers.
always.
I'm sick of hearing it. I've heard 3 generations of my family complain about the same thing and now gets done. So I'm like, well, I tell you what, these 2 hands and this brain, that's all I've got. Do you know what I mean? So just go out there and crack on and make your own world.
And also talking from, the civilian's perspective, you get so many people, especially like the tabloid readers. Apart from the sport, nothing else is correct in the tabloids. And and even then it's not always exact. But we civilians spread, and especially in the Northeast, I've got loads of mates up here and they go, yeah, you never guess what, he said such and such, and then there, and then there. And I've got all the factory workers coming up and spreading these things, and I say, right, everyone in. And they're like, what? And I say, John, you said Karen said such and such, who said this, who said that. What do you think on that? And they go, oh, I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that. And but I do it. And it stops. It stops the crap because they know they're going to be outed. And that's why I ban emails. And I say, we're going to speak for an hour, everyone now, and you only send follow-up emergency emails because all anyone's doing is sending emails, they've been like robots. And it's amazing how it's just the gossip's gone down like that. And then they're rewarded for ideas. So I'll say to the quiet guy in the corner who's been with us like 2 years and said 3 words. And I'll say, I'm going to do a box here because I think you've got a good brain and some good ideas, but you're always interrupted by the loudmouths. So I want good ideas in here and just put your initial and only I open that box. And then you give them like £1,000 bonus for an idea each month. That's 12k a year, and they come up with £400,000 worth of good ideas. Yeah. How much smarter would the government be to actually get people to communicate with the people that are really doing the jobs and really know the answers instead of sitting in the ivory tower thinking, oh, I think we should do this and this and this. And then secondly, why aren't they looking at what other countries do? You look at what Singapore does. It invests in the people and it gets the reward back. Yeah. We try and cut everything
but we have that attitude towards everything, whether it's, you look at food education, you go to Japan and food education is embedded into the curriculum from like day one of them going to school.
Why do we sit like this tiny island that, like America do, that think they rule the world? And why don't we learn? Like you go to Austria, and the taxes are high. Oh my God, it's clean. And the roads are perfect. So this is not something that's not possible. Mm-hmm. It's you invest in the future. And because each government leaves more crap behind than the last one, and we have had bad luck with Brexit and COVID, but still, if you don't invest in the future in every way, there's never going to be a good one. When I was a kid, we did metalwork, woodwork, cooking class. There's no life skill, common sense classes. It should be compulsory.
Why aren't you learn about bills and kind of managing money and all this kind of stuff? Because there's practicalities, We talked to John about this. Yes,
we had a falconry guy who came on.
John's a falconer specialist. He teaches kids, the unruly ones who can't sit in the class, so he takes them out in the woods and they learn practical skills, weighing things up, so it's maths.
But that's what the government need to implement.
To endorse that. Yeah, I agree.
Like we used to make us run our backside off at Princess Anne Park in minus 15 degrees in tiny little shorts, but it toughened you up for later.
Yeah.
So my kid can do everything. I know how to plumb, electricals, toilet, because I don't want to be dependent on anybody. Yeah. And that all came from when I was with Comprehensive, and we did metalwork and woodwork, and we learned real things. All those classes have disappeared.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I ask you? So your vegan journey then?
Yeah.
So you weren't always vegan?
No, not till I was 25.
So what did pre-vegan Heather look like in terms of diet and what you ate?
Well, because I was doing that modelling for a little bit, I lived off, weirdly, we didn't have much money when we were younger, so we had rabbit on a Sunday and 2 Dewhurst sausages for £1. Dewhurst in the Washington Galleries. Dewhurst, and I used to get told to go and get 6 sausages and we'd have 2 each. Mm-hmm. After my mum left, there was just 3 of us left. And then, and during the week, it was bean pie with mashed potato on the top because that's all we could afford.
So who was cooking?
I had to cook all the time.
Did you cook the rabbit as well?
All of it, yeah.
Did you? What did you do?
I just roasted it. And it was delicious. I've never managed to replicate that vegan style. I've done burgers and steak and everything else. But because I haven't eaten it since I was like 10. I can't really remember how to replicate it perfectly, and I'm certainly not going to start chomping on a rabbit now.
So what was your favourite thing as a kid then? What's your memory, your food memories? What's the thing that you
I
go
remember
back to?
once I had this marzipan cake. I'm trying to remember.
What? We've just been talking.
It
So
was like-
these themes are coming up. Marzipan,
I
we
like
were talking
Bakewell
about.
tarts. I like
my favourite.
things like that.
You
Yeah.
must like Battenberg then, do you?
That was it. That
There
was
you
the
go.
cake.
Yeah, that's it,
Battenberg.
Battenberg.
I was only
cake?
allowed a little slither because
Yeah.
my dad would eat most of
Well,
it.
yeah, because I got a thing about marzipan. It's too almondy for me. I ate almonds like you wouldn't believe, right?
Yeah.
This is my healthy snack, so I eat almonds by the handful, right? But it's just too much on the marzipan. But this fella here, pocket snack. Do you know what I mean? Just eats marzipan on its own. Are you?
We
eating
had,
marzipan
it did. We had a guest on here
Oh,
recently.
This is good.
Who was he talking about a recording studio?
Was
The
it
guy kept
recording
on
studio?
nibbling on a block of marzipan.
He mentioned marzipan, and it was Neil from
Pink Lane Bakery. Yeah.
And he said they're in a recording studio because he used to be a musician, and the producer would just pick up a block of marzipan and munch on a bit of marzipan. I'm like, I've never heard that in my entire life.
Well, it's just because
Until you met me.
they worked long hours, and he was thinking he was needing some sugar. But yeah, Battenberg cake was dead posh when I was young. You know,
It
we
was
get
for
once
me,
a
yeah.
month.
It was a
There'd
Sunday
be one Battenberg cake, and we get a little slither of that.
Yeah.
But sport was my thing. I mean, because we had no money, I used to get up in Lambton and then run through Princess Anne Park into the Washington swimming pool, do 200 lengths, and then run from there down to us with comprehensive, and then back.
How often?
Every day.
Every day.
Before school.
Is
yeah.
it just because you enjoyed it, or were you
No,
trying
my
to
dad
just
was like a
get out
general in the
house?
army. No,
Right.
no money, so he wouldn't give us the 10 pence for the bus ride.
Yeah.
And he would just say, and that's, you know, it was extreme, and my dad was completely nuts, but it meant that I had a crazy good work ethic and was really sporty for later in my life.
So
I could eat extra Battenberg cake, which I never got.
2 slices.
Yeah. so all these extra skills with cooking, I mean, that's got to have held good stead for you later in
Well,
life,
yeah, when you've only got things in the cupboard and nothing to add, you do become fridge pie expert. You know, it like saying, I'll take that and that and that. I've never actually followed a recipe in my life. I literally have to go back when I've made something and work out what I actually put in it and what amounts.
So you're winging it.
Did
You
you
just
just
like,
call
I'm
it
going to double this and double that.
expert?
Yeah.
Fridge
love
pie
that.
expert.
Fridge
yeah.
pie, because you
Yeah,
you
fridge
literally
pie.
go around and go a bit of that, bit of that left over.
A mate of mine used to live on his own at 14, used to go down his, and he made his own thing called rainbow rice, and it was just everything went in it, all different
Yeah.
colours, so he called it rainbow rice.
It is that sometimes, and then they're the hardest things to replicate because you've got like leftover Sunday dinner,
Yeah.
and then you mash up the roast potatoes, and then chop up the bits of veg and everything and make like a bubble and squeak. And some weeks it was amazing, and other weeks it wasn't as good.
quite right, and you couldn't work out why.
Because you had 3 Brussels sprouts less, and I was the only person I remember in those days that roasted Brussels sprouts.
The best.
So everybody hated Brussels sprouts, all my mates, and I said, "No, come round," and I'd roast them with big lumps of garlic and just lumps of onions because that was really cheap.
God, you must have been like 20 years ahead of everybody else in the northeast then.
yeah.
But everything roasted
Because they
better.
boiled everything.
You know, I don't remember. Yeah, I know. Boil it to an inch of its life.
Yeah.
Boiling's boring, isn't it? You know what I mean? So everything, I grill everything and roast everything. It just brings out the flavour so much and stuff.
Yeah.
Like roasted like cauliflower.
Just roasted anything.
Oh, roasted
I
cauliflower.
mean, the fastest thing to cook is to just get 10 veg, chop them all up, and usually people go, oh, well, sweet potato takes a little bit less than roast potato, carrot takes a bit. You just cut them more thinly
You do.
when you've got no time. So I'll just do 3 of each veg, layer it out, olive oil, for my mate's garlic and onion, because I can no longer eat garlic and onion, which is a whole other story. But it's great for you if you don't have an intolerance to it. And then shove it in the oven, 40 minutes.
Because I don't do potato, but I use butternut squash in replacement of potato.
Why
but I
don't
just
you
chop
do
that down.
potato?
I get bloated from potato.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, it's that. And I mean, we'll go down a full rice,
Are you sure
bread,
it's the
all that kind of
potato
stuff.
and not garlic and onion?
No, and
You've
handle
opened up a
garlic.
can of worms now.
But if we want to go in it, right, I'll cross my legs. Nightshade veg. So
Okay.
nightshade veg I've got a problem with. So aubergines and things like that.
Yeah.
And eating like
Tomatoes.
canned tomatoes, but I can get away with fresh tomatoes and grilled. But if I
Yeah.
pour a can in and do like a bolognese sauce,
Well,
I
'cause
get
it's-
bloated
it's
straight
'cause
away.
it's fermenting in
and
the
even
can.
beans as well. I get a reaction
Oligosaccharides.
from, so
Yeah.
all of these things.
But
so
there'll be certain, I'll just give you a quick lesson on this because
brilliant,
that's
I love it.
my
Yeah.
expert
Go
area.
for it.
Because I had Lyme's disease disease, and I was so healthy, it just sat in the cell. 40% of people in the UK have Lyme's disease and they don't know it, and they think they just get it from deer and a tick, and you get it from dogs and cats and loads of things. And most of the time you're fine. But when you go through a trauma or mass stress or anything that depletes your immune system, anything you're predisposed initially to can come out in the cell. Now, most people say, oh, well, my mum had high cholesterol, my dad had this. It's irrelevant. You've got 4% chance of ever having that. But if you continue with their diet, yes, you will get it. So I was vegan a long time, never sick, and then got Lyme's disease, misdiagnosed, went through a horrific divorce, abuse from the media, immune system depleted, and I became really, really ill. I got pneumonia, my appendix burst, my gallbladder went, and I was like, what the heck's going on? And it was this Lyme's disease came out, and they didn't diagnose it in England, because in England they test the blood. But in Germany, they test the urine and the blood. And when you have an illness and you get a blood test and it comes out as negative, it can be sitting in the cell. And the only way to test the cell is from urine. So once, after 22 years of having this, but I'd only been ill for 2 years, and they took a couple of organs out, they went, you've got Lyme's disease. And they wanted to take out half my colon, give me a stoma bag. And I was just like, well, I could design something nice, but it's not going to be the easiest of things. And I thought, no, I'm going to argue this, because I'd had 2 ectopic pregnancies and 4 miscarriages in my first marriage. And they said, you can't have kids. I didn't let them take my tubes out. And I eventually went on to have a kid. So that made me question everything and realize that doctors are not gods. So I basically started studying the colon for 15 years, because every time I ate beans or cauliflower and certain things, I would go from 6-pack to 6 month in 20 minutes. I would get acid reflux. I'd be in agony. And I'd go from extreme constipation to extreme diarrhea. In the middle of the car, I'm going to a meeting and I'm like, pull the car over, jumping in the farmer's field. Like, literally, people had no idea. It was a nightmare. I was in a ski race. I was about to go live on telly. I went, oh no, it's happening, it's happening. You've never seen me ski so fast in your life to get down the bottom before an accident happened live on TV.
Record,
I think it wasn't the Guinness World Record day, but it was one of those days.
Forced.
And guess what it turned out to be? Garlic and onion. It was a
Really?
fructan.
Aye.
So there is 6 things. There's fructans, which are like garlic onions.
Is
There's
it together?
mannitols, sorbitol. It can be one or the other,
Okay.
or both in
Right.
my case.
Yeah.
And then this thing happens as well. I'm unfortunately mannitols as well. So I'm like mushrooms, but not oyster mushroom. So I've done these studies of where we put people swallowing cameras. The Harley Street dysfunctional gut clinic have been working with me for years trying to work out what is going on with her system. And we've done it on loads of people with SIBO, H. pylori, all these things. And the amount of people that have had operations on their lower esophageal valve, not knowing that actually when you cut these things out, it starts to work again, because it sits open the whole time when you have certain things that you're intolerant to, someone else is not. And you work out that it's one of only 6 things. So what I've done is tested this on tens of thousands of people, but knowing people, it's too complicated, they're too busy, and to start wiping out, everything's got garlic and onion in it when you go for a sandwich, or, you know, even crisps have got onion powder in, and you've got to literally read every label.
Yeah, it is.
And people have given up gluten when they're not gluten intolerant. They've given up all sorts of things. And it comes down to something else. And that's why it's really, really important to work out which of the 6 are you. Are you a fructan? Are you a sorbitol? Are you a mannitol? Are you an oligosaccharide, as in beans, but only certain types of beans, not all beans? Because otherwise you get so afraid when people are in so much pain that they wipe out 80% of their food. And they're scared to eat anything else.
It is. It's a fear of implementing it back in. But when you do, then you go, well, I get triggered from that because it's obvious. You know?
You have to put it back in once a week, because it can take 72 hours before you find out what the culprit is. And if you do something every 2 days, you confuse, and it could be celery. Oh no, it's not, it's onion. And you've just wiped celery out. So some people take years to work it out, as I did, because I was told it was all sorts of stuff going on with my organs. And luckily I held on to my colon and didn't have to have a stoma bag. But I had to lie up for, 10 months. I couldn't lie flat because the acid reflux was so extreme. And they wanted to do a Nissen fundoplication, which is on the lower esophageal valve. And that means you can't swallow properly for the rest of your life. And you can never throw up if you were sick. Mm-hmm. So
what is that? Is that like a tightening of?
It's a mesh.
Yeah.
That basically holds the whole thing down, and there's all sorts of other side effects. So all these poor people who might be able to fix it through nutrition don't have the correct advice because the GPs and the endoscopies and colonoscopy specialists don't know.
Because those systems are so archaic.
Yes.
Archaic, though, aren't they? They're not.
But it takes, you need a degree in just mushrooms. Do you know what I mean? It's like that.
So this is the solution. So what I did was, being in the food manufacturing business, I analysed it for 10, 15 years, and I've now made a range of food where you just add hot water. So it's like a very, very, very healthy pot noodle, but it's not pot noodle. So it's got quinoa, kale, all these things in. Mm-hmm. You can have it on top of a ski slope. You can have it on a plane. Mm-hmm. It's going to be brilliant for the NHS because they're just throwing 500 million down the drain every year in giving people steak and chips after a heart attack. I mean, that's how smart we are.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, don't get it.
So it's called no bloat.
Hospital food's ridiculous, Yeah, well, just give them 2 slices of toast. You're like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
You're never going to heal. And then you're seeing cancer patients like doing like overload on broccoli and stuff like that, and they're actually it's helping the cure.
They can't digest it.
Do you know what I mean? So it's all this kind of stuff.
You should only have the top of the broccoli head if you've got digestive problems.
I've heard it, but I've heard it helps with kind of cancer as well, like fighting cancer and stuff like that.
What does?
Broccoli.
Well, it does if you can. It does. But if your body has been filled with putrefied meat and dairy for most of its life, and you suddenly shove a load of fibre in, it doesn't have the microbes to break it down. It doesn't have the digestive enzymes, and most of the time over 40, you don't have enough hydrochloric acid to break it down. So you have to do it slowly, and you have to do it with low FODMAP, non-gut irritating products, because vegetables can also irritate the gut in certain people.
It's so...
And that's why...
complex.
It is complex as well.
But that's why we've made a range so that people suddenly feel, after 6 weeks, of following very simple instructions, and that's why it's called no bloat, and they suddenly go, oh my God, I don't feel bloated anymore. I feel amazing. Then, once a week, you introduce one of the culprits, and there's only 6 that you have from each category. There's one from each category, so you don't have to do 5,000 things. Once you know it's a fructan, it's a fructan.
Explain FODMAP to me again, because you sent me a link to that.
So
app, and I signed up to it.
It's basically low FODMAP is what you have to follow, but the Monash is the only good one. The rest of them are just telling you cauliflower's fine, but actually it's not for certain people. So it's basically fermentable oligosaccharides, sorbitols, polyols. It's too complicated for explaining on this podcast, but I'm going to put a page together that just really simply explains, because people want the result. It's why we're a pharmaceutical pill-obsessed country. They just want to take a pill and fix it.
Want a quick fix,
So you'll get a small percentage of people in extreme pain, like I was, who want to learn the ins and outs of everything to understand why am I being restricted on something. Yeah. But 90% of the population are just going to get up in the morning, sort the kids out, run here, go there, and they just need a solution. And that will be the no bloat. And they follow that for 4 weeks, introduce one product a week for the 6 weeks, and then they know exactly what they can eat when they go out. And they say, I'm allergic to garlic and onion, even though you're not. When you go in a restaurant, you have to say it, especially Indian restaurants. They just shove loads of bits of onion in to your spinach.
But even then, it's solutions to problems, but it's changing someone's habits. Good luck with that. That's the hardest part. It's changing someone's habits.
Yeah, but we've done it to millions of people, and veganism's way harder than this, because veganism is not necessarily people are thinking of something that's good for them. They're thinking, most people are changing because the animals and the planet, and then, they're giving up certain things that they love. But when you actually eat something that tastes amazing and you feel light and not bloated, and you start to lose weight, it's the tipping point. So it's a bit like my girlfriend was 5 stone overweight, and I said, look, I'm going to give you this diet, but your personality will only follow it if you go to Slimming World and sign in on a Friday and feel pressure from your mates and get a little medal. Yeah. So you just have to work out what is going to make you stick to something and not. But you have to give them a solution which is cost-effective, great tasting food, because, you know, you're not going to live off lean cuisine, which is not particularly healthy, you know, and these things. This is just what you call the elimination period, where your gut resets and everything resets itself. Then you do the introduction, and then you're on your own life's maintenance. So this is not something to stick to, but you have these little bags with you. So if you're on a flight going somewhere and all they're going to give you is a meal with the allergen in it that you've got, because they don't count removing garlic and onion, which is 50% of where most people end up.
Yeah, I just don't eat the meal, me. I just, you know, take your own snacks like you do, travel snacks.
Am I right in saying you became vegan when you had your accident?
Yes. Yeah.
Was that hard? If that hadn't happened, would you have become vegan, do you think? Or was that the moment where you
That was 100%, because I literally come back from the war in the former Yugoslavia, across the street, police motorbike on its way to a false alarm, chopped my leg off, crushed my pelvis, punctured my lung, and I got to hospital and they kept going in, she's going to die, say goodbye to my sister and my best mate. And apparently they said that 4 times. And then I obviously lived, put me in the room. I was there for 5 months. Crushed pelvis, that was the worst part, could hardly move. And I got an infection in my leg, and they kept chopping my leg more and more, because it started off just above the ankle, and then they chopped it more, and then now it's up to here, just below the knee. But I didn't want to lose the knee, because I thought there were no such thing as the limbs that you see now. We spent years developing them, but above knee was 100% the hardest. It's still harder than below knee, but it's much more advanced. And my girlfriend came in, she said, I've cured myself of breast cancer. She disappeared for 2 years and then turned up in hospital. I went, how did you do that? She went, I went vegan. And I was like, vegan, schmegan, what on earth is vegan? And I was 25-year-old northeasterner that just lived off, you know, sausage and mash and a couple of veg, boiled out veg. And but I was willing to try anything. So I said, okay, what do I do? She went, we'll get you out of here. And she just discharged me, flew me to Florida to a place called Hippocrates. I met all these people that were healing themselves, like of all these diseases that they were on death's door with the doctors. I saw everyone reverse type 2 diabetes within 3 months immediately, type 1 down to 2 insulin injections a day. And loads of people overcome certain cancers. And I was like, this is mad. And then they put me on this disgusting wheatgrass juice, which had never been heard of in the UK at the time in 1993.
Yeah, it's not very nice wheatgrass.
No, it's not. No. And then garlic poultices on the wound, and just all vegan juicing. And because when you're ill, you should actually eat less. It's very rare that your body needs more, because it's like spring cleaning. If you keep shoving things in your digestive system, it hasn't got time to go and fix everything else.
So if you fast for like 72 hours or 40 hours, you can actually cure it. And
isn't that your body kicks back culturally, though, where we'd be like, you need to build yourself up. Get that in you.
Your mum would like give you some hot
finish that
hot
food.
Juice.
I worked hard for that.
Finish it off. Hot juice and a cup of tea and warm milk or something. That's what you were given, though, you know, when you were ill. It's the comfort, but it was a comfort thing.
But that's also why we have this connection. You watch MasterChef, which I love. And I love watching it and going, oh, I could do that 100% vegan and make that taste the same and this and this. So I love watching it. And then they put, you know, am I allowed to swear on this show or not?
Yeah, you've already done it once.
They put 3 pounds of shit in there, sugar, 10 kilograms of butter, and then 5,000 of this, and then they wonder why it tastes nice. Yeah. Because it's just full of crap.
Yeah.
And anytime they get a plant-based or vegan chef on there with cleaner things, they go, oh, no, that's like a side dish. That's not. Yeah. Because their mentality is you've got to have a big slab of meat, you've got to have this. And it's changing that culture and that. And that's why when I created V-Bites, it was to replicate those products that people are addicted to, because it is a fast food addiction, and the same with the cheese, so that they could go from stage 1 of fast food addiction. And it's a bit like weaning someone off heroin, fast food. It's like bringing them to methadone. So the meat replacements, the dairy replacements and the fish replacements would be their methadone. It's not where you want to stay for life.
But it's not cold turkey.
But
it's just
yes.
transition, move.
And it's worked on millions of people who are addicted to fast food. It's not needed for people who are not addicted to fast food. You just go straight over to whole grains, pulses, lentils. But that's 90% of the public are addicted to fast food.
Yeah, I think the issue with food is its categories as well. And when someone goes vegan, everyone rolls their eyes and goes, oh, here we go, you're going to lecture us on veganism and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what puts people off. It puts me off, because if you're going to bang on about it, it's the same with religion. Bang on about it, I'm out, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you come to me and go, this is what I eat, this is what I do, it works for me, then I'm going, I'll lean into it and I'm more interested and I want to know what it's about.
Well, that's why...
replacing something with chemicals and stuff, that's what bugs the life out of me.
But it's not chemicals, though. That's because you've read the newspapers.
No, but
you've fallen into the processed word.
Products. That's what I'm asking.
Bacon, bacon, real meats, real fish. Most of the fish in the UK comes from putrefied, feces, swimming fish. It has no omega-3 in it.
Yeah.
And it looks beautiful in pink and everything in the supermarkets.
It gets dyed.
Yeah.
Yes,
it gets
exactly.
dyed. It's more appealing.
And they contact me and ask if they can buy my algae to feed the fish. And the algae came from the original source. Yeah. It's nonsensical. But I was one of those people, because when you learn something and then you finally know this is what needs to happen, it's like a born again. It's like someone who's got a religion. And it's the same thing, everyone each to their own. I've never needed to follow a religion to know I should be a good person. I'm trying to make a difference. Yeah. Some people need that. They need to feel part of a community. They need that. And I understand it. And my grandma was very religious. She was Catholic. And she used to drag me down to the church. I was like, this is lovely, Grandma, but I don't need religion. I'm going to be a good person anyway. And, but yeah, I used to be that person that went, no, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And I was a massive campaigner in animal rights, and I do a lot behind the scenes. But I'm also a realist. And I thought, unless I feed people's addictions, to wean them off, to change the metabolism, to change the microbiome, to change, nothing's going to happen. And that's why it happened. So, I would date somebody, they'd be a food addict, fast food crap, McDonald's, Burger King, all that. And I would just replicate it. Within a year, they hated eating that because they could start feeling the fat and the gristle. So if you just did, and now they're eating tofu and they never believed they would ever like tofu in their life, because our appetite and our taste buds are so suppressed and attuned. Yeah. And look at what all of these big companies have done. They've created products to make us addicted to them, and it should be illegal. And the taxes should be going on high sugar and all the unhealthy things, and they should make healthy fruits and vegetables without any tax and available to everybody. And they would have a healthier economy, environment, and people.
Yeah, I mean, it's education as well. It has to start in the home, and it has to start with what you do.
Has to start at school.
But at school,
no one listens to the parents. Nobody listens to the parents.
But if the parent, it's kind of follow the people that it's. But you have to do it as well, and then it might rub off on them, because when you do that with your kids, the kids always push back all the time. But then the kids are by themselves with other people, and then they're reiterating what you've taught them.
Yeah.
So you're going, well, it's seeping in.
Yeah.
Just you can't witness this because they're never going to do it in front of you. It's when you're not there.
And also, I know loads of kids that have forced their parents into being plant-based and eating healthier, and sitting there saying, there's no way I'm eating that animal. And they're like, well, hang on a second, I've just spent this much money on it and blah, blah, blah. And so we've seen reversals. The whole thing is, it's about education, fully understanding where your food source comes from, and then making your own decision in your own mind.
So it's top down and bottom up.
Yes,
that's the thing. You can't, because you can't make an assumption that every family have got the same resources to make those decisions, and that some of that is like decades and generations worth of cultural entrenchment in people's behaviour. So when I often bang on about school procurement and hospital procurement, like school food is shocking in this country.
I know.
Like really, really bad. And I think some of the things that they try and do politically to fix that are quite blunt instruments, like banning takeaways or banning, when actually, they're not going to address the problem.
No.
So it's got to come from.
Well, we did it in New York with the New York Coalition for Healthy School Foods, because Britain weren't interested in 2008. and we gave them $1 million worth of food that were plant proteins, like burgers, because they all got $1 a day. So where did they go? They went to McDonald's. And so we set up free cafes next to McDonald's, and you could have everything free from us. So they would get the free burgers, the free everything, but then they'd get the veg with it. And then we grew vegetables on all the rooftops in the Hunts Point Alliance for Children, which is the biggest importer of vegetables, and we get them to donate the vegetables. And kids are amazing. If you teach them how to start growing veg, they run back from school and get obsessed by how big the carrot's grown or the courgette.
Yeah.
But we don't do that anymore. There's no more allotments hardly. Like every house should be built with allotments where kids can go and actually learn how to grow fruit and veg and eat it.
Yeah.
But all that's...
It's interaction.
Totally. But communities were designed then to replicate that model. You know, like you say, I mean, the whole tradition around allotments, and not just the Northeast, but it is a very... Certainly in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s.
We always went down the allotment.
It was, yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
I mean, I've bought a factory in Boston, Lincolnshire that was going into administration, and it's got 67 acres on the side. And what I want to do is to build low-cost social housing. But part of the deal is you get that house for peanuts, but you have a contract that you look after the garden, and a quarter of it has to be growing vegetables and doing things that you're teaching and feeding the family and everything. And it's an idealism, but if someone's going to get something that's literally just above cost, and that's part of the contract they have to do.
I don't think we need idealism at the minute.
You so
We've got
do.
to have some horizon.
And we need some dictatorship. I'm sorry, right? If you're in hospital, you should not have a choice of what you choose to eat. At all.
Say, I chose to eat that Snickers.
A menu. I literally, my best mate Julia's dad's been in and out of hospital all year. One of my employees, Nicola, her dad, had open heart surgery. I took pictures of the menu. Steak and chips, ice cream and jelly. To someone that's just had a heart attack. That is insane.
Totally. I mentioned to you earlier, but I've been trying to write a blog piece about this, right?
Yeah.
Because when I went into hospital last year, was it? To talk about getting my knee replaced. Right, 35 kilos overweight, which I had to lose. I'm sitting in the waiting room, and it's next to the cafe that was selling sausage and chips. Right,
insane.
And directly in front of me, literally 2 meters, was a vending machine.
I was just about to say a vending machine.
Chocolate.
Because
should be illegal.
Put fruit balls out. You know what I mean?
The thing is, if they're not going to eat there, if you turn the healthy options, they're just going to go straight to the other thing, which is the vending machine. Then, if not, they're going to bring it in from the streets.
But we're in this really dumb cycle because they must know that in hospitals.
But it should be illegal. This is what it's like. They know they can implement laws. Look what they did to, holding us all down in COVID. But so they can do it in hospitals. In hospitals, prisons, schools, they're the areas you can control, and there is where you dictate it. If you're like me and you'd run over and go to the shop and nick a couple of jelly beans and things like that, you can't stop that. But what you serve, food, and it's not about money, because I've analysed the whole P&L, 500 million a year we would save if the NHS stopped feeding crap, and the cleanups they have to do from diarrhoea and constipation by feeding the crap, the poor nurses. And then on top of that, all that money could go to pay nurses and junior doctors the money that's going to keep them incentivized to stay in the business. But no, let's just keep wasting 500 million. So it's all BS about, they get that because it's cheap. No, that's the waste.
Yeah. I had a knee up about 8 years ago. It was like a private knee op, right? Inspire. And the one thing I was worried about was like, I've got to take Tupperware in, I've got to take this in, because I don't want to, I can't eat whatever anybody else is going to give us, because I know it's going to be toast and this and that. I have to have what I want to eat, and why can't I have that? Do you know what I mean?
If you're going to take in healthy, 100% if you take the healthy food, but I'd be there like the guard at the door to check you weren't, because people used to come and visit me in hospital and bring me chocolates. And literally I had a brilliant nurse who was like, no, that sugar's just feeding the bacteria in her leg and stopping her from healing. Why would you allow that in there?
But again, it's so frustrating. So I remember when I got my first ACL operation in South Tyneside Hospital, right? People coming in like with booze for the family member, just brought it in because he likes to have it on a Thursday, Yeah.
And they mean it with good intention and love and everything.
It's a comfort thing
but
again,
actually, it's like giving your dog chocolate. You're going to kill him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's what has to change. It's like, especially in the NHS, you're going to have a harder job in private hospitals because people are paying to go in there. We'll let them get on with it. But the NHS is funded by taxpayers. So why should the taxpayers pay money to all this food that's going to waste and is making the patient more ill, stay in hospital longer, put more pressure on the nurses and the doctors for repeat visits, and so and so and so? It's simple.
Any public institution, isn't it? It's hospitals or schools. You have an expectation that they've got a duty of care to have absolute best practice.
Yes.
It just winds me up. I agree with everything you say, but now it's going to happen.
I know.
Oh, just
right, come on,
so
let's
frustrating.
go and sort it
Well,
out.
I think.
Can you do something about it, please?
I think. Well, we've done a lot behind the scenes that's changing, but the main thing that we did in America was because the pharmaceutical industry want to keep you sick because that's how they make money.
Yes.
Unlike the NHS here shouldn't want to keep you sick because they'd have a lot more money in their budget. What we've done is work with insurance companies because insurance people want to keep you healthy because they don't want to pay out.
Yeah.
So I think more of that needs to go on where they're funding these initiatives, and basically the NHS should be run by someone that understands nutrition alongside an accountant who actually sees that they're going to make money, and there needs to be pilot tests. So where some of the NHS trusts have control over their hospital, these pilot tests that we're putting forward at the moment to show that if you force a patient to eat very little or healthy when they're in hospital, they will recover 50% quicker, be out of the beds, the bed's free for another emergency. It's just common sense. We did it with the prosthetic system. When I lost my leg, you can't believe the kind of legs they were handing out. They were disgusting. And I was like, I want to wear high heels, I want to do sports, I want to do this. Oh, we've got no budget for that. I said, but you're not enabling people to do something with their life, and you're thinking in a linear way. So okay, it might cost 500 quid more for a much higher quality limb, but the revisits are a year instead of every 7 weeks, which I learned because I kept going every 7 weeks because the limb was awful. It would break all the time. And then I go back to work. I'm not in a wheelchair. And then I have a job and I pay taxes. And you've got to look at it in a macro way. And that's what we don't do all the time. We think of 4 years being in office, showing a quick, profit and whatever. And I know in many ways Labour are trying to do things that and stick to their guns. But the whole thing about doing something new when you don't know what's really gone on in the economy until you've got your hands right in it is you've got to be flexible and you've got to change. You've got to have your end vision and goal, but you have to literally sit down and work out what really works. And I think, like Austria, this is what they do. The taxes you pay go into your community. 10% go into the national fund. Now, people will say, well, that's not fair because that community's got wealthy and so. But if you don't start by getting the community to care about their community, you're never going to change that area. It's always going to stay downtrodden and it's not going to move forward. Whereas if everyone that spent the money on the lottery was analysed and regionalised, I remember saying this years ago when I wanted Richard Branson to get the lottery, I was saying, okay, well, the biggest spenders are this region. All the money they spent should go back into their region. Why should the North East, who at the time had a lot of poverty, their donations go in to fund an art gallery in London? I mean, that's nonsensical. And then it means when you're doing your lottery money, it's going back in your region. When you're looking after your community, you take pride in cleaning things up. And that's why you go to Austria and it's beautiful and it's clean because everybody thinks it's like their house. If you look at Sunderland, if everyone in Sunderland knew that everything they're creating is going back in the pot, they would take more pride.
But it is that sense of civic pride, isn't it? Like when I did some work in China, you go to China and the Chinese schools, the kids don't, you're talking from kind of key stage, would that be 6-7 year old?
Yeah.
They go into school, they never get taught on a Friday because they've got to clean the school. So all the kids are responsible for cleaning the schools. because they were given that sense of
And it
it's your
sounds
space,
awful,
it's
but
your
it's so
but it's not because
good.
you're looking after the space that you're doing.
this is your environment, so
Yeah.
you take care of your
I had to
environment.
clean the house all the time as a young kid. Never went out till 11 p.m. to play hopscotch by myself.
Yeah.
Because it was, it's too extreme what happened to us when we were younger. But now, everyone's so afraid of everything. I used to get the cane. And the ruler when I was at school. I don't agree with that. Yeah. But, oh my goodness, does there need to be a bit more order in kids to not get away with crap?
Yeah.
The teachers are like literally growing grey by the time they're 26 because they're dealing with all this madness. So it needs to be ingrained from youth that there needs to be some proper law and order. And it sounds terrible because I sound like a dictator, but that's what needs to happen in so many areas. When you have good intentions, you need to implement them in that way, and you need to give the people that care the authority to do it, but not allow them to be abusive. And that's a fine balance.
It is, but it is a balance. It's going from one extreme to the other. It's a pendulum, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's completely wrong how you were raised, and then we overcorrect, and then we're gone down the other way. And I think it needs to be something met in the middle. Do you know what I mean? And that's where it is. So that's what everything should be. Though.
And it's about exciting and incentivizing people to actually think they've got somewhere to go. If I didn't have the people that work in my factory not wanting to drive and just walk to work, they wouldn't want to have that job. You need every layer to create a house of type of people, and they all need to be appreciated at each level, and they all need to be incentivized. But I'm the first to turn around and say, you're a lazy git, get out, because they're still out there. There are people that work their backsides off and end up doing 3 people's jobs in a business while the other 2 are just round the back of the bike shed or having a fag. And that has to change, and it goes from school all the way through to business.
It does entirely.
It does, I know.
This has been like a campaign interview. I'm like, I'm going to vote for Heather.
We've completely changed. I know when you were going off, I was thinking you should bring some music up from the background. You know, like, it's almost like it's an anthem. I'm like, yeah, go Heather, go.
But I think we'd have to block off the northeast from the rest of the country and say, this is what we're going to do in this area. And then let's be the pilot test study to show it can work in the other areas.
Well, they do that anyway, don't they? They just block it off naturally. They just
don't get us
well, it was a nightmare getting over here today.
Are we on menu
Actually,
territory?
menu, right. We'll have a little
It's a bit of fun, Heather.
We'll have a predicament here, rather, because we need to ask some questions off our menu.
Yeah.
It's very much food related. The predicament is, it's the Greg's order, and I'm like,
no, you can still do.
No.
You can still do Greg's order.
I'll have somebody, and he wasn't really.
I don't know if you know, but Roger came to see me many years ago.
You're going to throw the menu at us, like, do you know what I mean?
I replicated Greg's to show it could be 100% plant based with nobody knowing.
So you know who? Roger Whiteside was the ex-CEO of Greg's.
Okay.
And he was the one that really wanted to turn it around from a vegan perspective.
Okay. And that's how the Greg's sausage roll and everything started. The vegan sausage roll.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll retract that, Your Honour. There you go. Have a look at that.
Is this what you're going to give me to eat? I've just got to pick one. What would I choose?
Pick one. You got to usually pick 3, and then the Greg's order is one of the 3.
It's a compulsory one.
One from anything, compulsory Greg's, and then anything else.
Okay.
Anything you want.
I always had curry and chips on the Thai side when I was dancing.
Yeah.
Hang on. Do you know something that way done? Because this has got curry versus gravy on.
It says curry versus gravy, yeah.
But it is a chip-based. But it's a chip-based question. And we didn't tell you that, but now you just went straight to curry and chips.
It was always
chip shop curry.
Yeah,
chip shop curry,
and it was vegan, and people didn't know it.
Ah, right.
So I didn't shout about it. But every time I used to go to Julie's nightclub when I was little.
Nightclubs again?
Yeah, no coat, save the pound, putting the coat in the cloakroom.
Yeah.
Got a beer with the pound, or 2 beers back then, and then go out and have curry and chips.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll grab that menu because I think we're blocking your face with the camera.
All right.
Tim leaned forward.
That's not a bad thing, how I'm feeling. It's not a bad thing.
That's all right. We've got a couple more cameras, but I felt Tim's energy there.
Curry and chips.
So curry and chips.
Yeah.
Are you having batter on, and are you having salt and vinegar on that?
If it's curry and chips, I'm having nothing but curry and chips.
Really?
That's 90% salt in the curry. If I was just having chips, I'd have no batter on anything. I would have tons of proper vinegar, not this watered down crap that we're getting now. Sarsons, if it's not watered down.
Sarsons still.
And loads of, salt and vinegar.
Salt and vinegar.
I'm not a battery person.
Vinegar first. Then salt.
Yes.
Because it makes it
Yeah,
stick.
yeah,
to
yeah. Makes it stick. Exactly.
chips, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And what's your mains question?
Anything? It's anything on there, to be honest, Heather. Just shout something out and we'll tell you what it is.
What, 3-second rule? Does that mean drop on the floor and pick it up?
Yeah, but there's 3 seconds. Are you going 1 Mississippi? Are you going 1, 2, 3? Because there's a...
No, I'd leave it there for 10 minutes and pick it up.
Really, yeah.
Mainly because that bacteria is good for you. I wouldn't do it in my factory because high risk. It's got to be absolutely
It's all
perfect.
about the surface you drop it on and how it falls. Because you wouldn't you wouldn't eat a pizza if it drops face down on a gravel, would you? Do you know what I mean? But if you drop some...
I would have done when I was homeless on the streets. I would have picked the bits of gravel out.
Right.
But not lately, no.
Right, seeing as we're going down that question, what's the worst thing you've eaten off the floor then?
Ooh, you got me thinking as well now.
I think
I'll have toast.
the worst thing I've eaten off the floor was when I was at school. We always used to pretend we had a ham sandwich because that's what the posh kids, or the wealthier kids in school had, and we could never afford ham at the time.
So what was
One time I got ham sandwich from my friend Julia's dad, and I came out the swimming pool because I was always swimming training and got the sandwich out. I was really hungry, and it fell into, where the drain goes, where all the chlorine goes down, and it fell on the top of it.
It's the worst place.
And so I picked it up, and it was soggy, and I ate it.
Oh, you did?
And it was still delicious.
Just because that's the only ham sandwich
Because that's the only ham sandwich I've had. Which is why I made V-Bites ham slices taste the same, because I had that memory. And that's why people can't go plant-based, because they think they're giving up that lovely memory of eating a great food when they're a kid.
So you mentioned you pretended sometimes to have a ham sandwich. So what was your pretend ham sandwich? Just butter?
It was just margarine.
Was it?
But I didn't want the kids to see we didn't have any money.
Oh, so you pretended?
Yeah, so I'd eat
something in it.
Well, because everyone asked, they go, "Oh, have you got in your packed lunch?"
Yeah, I've got
And I
ham
go,
as
"Oh,
well.
I've got a ham.
Yeah.
I've got ham sandwich
What,
as well."
you just had butter and bread? Fat and bread?
Yeah.
It's fat and bread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Well, that's quite a...
I know, amazing.
Yours as well. Yeah, eating something out of a bin, Chris.
Now
Go on, tell us
I was
the-
eating
That
out of the
whole
bin.
generation of young people having fake ham sandwiches.
Yes.
Pretend ham sandwiches.
Exactly.
Pretend ham sandwiches. Pretend ham.
Yeah, my mum used to buy that peck.
Oh, peck, yeah.
Jill.
Well,
Spam.
Yeah, well, look.
Spam, yeah. Spam. I never like spam.
Yeah, I'm
Never
not a
liked
spam
that,
fan.
no. And I like real peas, not mushy peas. I could never get my head around mushy
Yeah.
peas.
I'm back on mushy as well. I've rediscovered the mushy pea. They're really nice. I'm enjoying the mushy pea. But
Posh mushy peas are different than mushy peas.
I've gone back with peas pudding and ham because I don't have the bread, but I'll just have the nice ham. But I'll tend to have a slow cooked ham, so stringy ham, and then peas pudding next to it. But the hot and cold, I like it a little bit warm. Do you know what I mean? It's temperatures and textures.
I
isn't
should
it?
have. You should have told us. I would have brought some food in.
Oh,
Some.
have you not got
next
some?
time.
Oh, you came in a taxi. I was going to say have you got some on the boat.
No, I've just literally got off the train. But you'll have to come around the factory.
Because you've got a massive. You brought in a massive
that's a
trolley.
good
You must
idea.
have some
It's
snacks in
all-
your trolley, have you?
No. It's literally because I've been on the road the whole time.
Can we come to the
Come
factory?
to the
Yeah, come to the factory.
Because we want to do a little bit of filming as well.
Yeah.
Could we do that?
That'd be fun.
That'd be
You got to
fantastic.
try out.
Yeah.
We do gorgeous. Like we created the Applewood smoky cheese,
Oh, did
and
you?
they tried to nick the recipe and took it to Europe.
Right.
And no, excuse me. Then we did the Domino's pizza cheese, and then they nicked it. Everything. These corporates, they come in and then they do the audits, work it out, and then try and nick all the
Because you're ahead of the curve.
IP.
That's why.
I know.
Head of the curve.
Head of the curve.
Head of the curve.
Heather. The curve.
I'm trying to say that's hard to say.
Head of the curve.
Head of the curve. Anyway, say the brand right. Okay, no one steal that. Right. So your Greg's order, last one. I'm just going to take that off you.
Yeah.
What you having? You're going into Greg's. What you
Vegan sausage roll.
Yeah.
Vegan sausage roll.
Yeah, it's a treat.
Okay.
Probably once a month.
All right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all right. That's not too treat.
It's got the corn mycoprotein in, which is actually pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
What type of day would you have had to have to go
Yeah.
into Greg's for a sausage roll?
What's your treat? Do you look like?
Well, it would be if we know we've got to work till really late. I'll go in and get 24 Greg's sausage roll, vegan sausage rolls, to give to the team on the way in from the Greg's in next to Asda's and see them. That's where I pick it up from.
Have you had any knockbacks? Is anyone going, can I have a normal one, please?
No, they ask for them every week
they
now.
really?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And they've got to know me now, going in there and have 24 ready instead of when I went in, they went, "Oh, we've only got 5 left." So I had to wait half an hour to stick them in the oven.
Greg's order is actually 24 sausage rolls.
Yeah.
24 vegan sausage rolls, please. Really
It's
have it
when
again.
we're doing it. When we're doing a late shift, then we just heat them back up.
So you're going in by yourself, having this just for you, not the 24, just a single. Are you getting a drink? Are you getting anything else?
No, nothing.
Nothing?
Nah.
Have you eaten it by the time you've got to the car?
No.
You taking it with you?
Yeah. Because they're fine cold as well. Or I'll stick them in the oven. Reheat them.
So you'd reheat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm going to the factory at like silly o'clock, and then it's only 15 minutes from seeing.
So as long as you have it, you can have it later on, yeah?
Exactly.
Okay.
But it's only a treat for me. I wouldn't live off sausage rolls.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I
It
like
is,
that.
yeah.
It is. Anything else you want to ask on there? Because you rattled through that.
You must.
Sorry.
I want to bring up do you remember the pop man?
Yeah. Shall I tell you a guilty secret about
But which kind? Because we were
Tim, you
Alpine.
didn't know about Tim
I was
didn't know about the pop man,
Tizer.
did you?
Do you remember Tizer?
Sorry, I don't know if you
Tizer?
mean.
Yeah,
Sorry.
an Iron Brew. Do you remember Tizer and Iron Brew?
Yes.
Tizer.
So
Tizer?
when I lived in Sulgrave,
I had a mate called Tizer.
that had a little, and I apologise if these people are still alive.
Andrew Tizik.
If these people are still alive, I'd like to take them out to dinner.
Yeah.
Because when I was little, I think we were about 7, we lived in Sulgrave, and there was a little shop up the road, and we'd be able to get a bottle of Tizer for the family once a week. And of course it was gone in a day with the family. So you used to get money back on your bottle.
Yeah.
And we used to climb over the back of the wall and nick 10 bottles and take 10 in to get
More money.
5p a bottle.
What a system.
I was 10
And we'd then reinvest and spend that money on the sweets in the same shop. So it wasn't quite as bad as it sounded, but we're only 7 or 8. And I don't know how they ever didn't work out. We were always jumping over the wall to grab some bottles and take them in and get some ket.
Get some kit. Because they used to carry I remember the guy used to carry like 1 in each finger. So he used to carry like 3 bottles in one hand.
Yeah.
But they used to just launch off the back of a lorry, just jump off the back with a crate and all that kind of stuff. Quick, deliver. Door, then back on. But it looked like a scaffolding lorry.
Yeah.
That's what the kind of lorry it was. But we had the Alpine. What did you have? You have Villa?
We had Sykes.
Sykes.
Yeah.
What was your favourite flavour, Pop?
Tizer.
So it's Tizer.
Yeah. Tizer Iron Brew was always the second choice.
Right, okay.
Because my sister liked Iron Brew, I liked Tizer, so we used to flip-flop.
It's yours?
I don't even know if Tizer exists anymore.
I don't know if it does.
I don't know, because you brought that back. I know Iron Brew's still around, but Tizer, I haven't seen it on the shelf.
I haven't either.
Because I know the kids like a little bit of this and that. They like Vimto and all this kind of stuff, but...
it's all crap now.
Because all the
I didn't know
retro
that when
bottles
I
of
was
Iron
little.
Brew are back. Have you seen them? You'll see
No.
all the retro bottles are back, glass bottles.
Yeah. The guy glass, something nice about that glass.
Because we were chatting earlier about how progressive that was. When you think about it, back in the day, pop in glass bottles.
Yeah.
And returnable, recyclable.
You're talking about flavours. It was like pineapple was always a special one, do you know what I mean? And then you get like,
though, wasn't it?
It was very sticky, but pineapple, but it was always, you have to get it, you have to drink it because it's going to go flat. And you don't want that flat. You know,
But
you've
in
got the
those
flat
days,
dregs at the bottom.
in those days, they didn't have the aspartame and saccharin and things like that.
Yeah.
It was sugar,
like
which
soda
is
stream, wasn't
not great for you. But the diet ones are horrific.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrific for you. I mean, we created an expansion of a replication of Diet Coke to get people off their addictions, because a lot of people are addicted to Diet Coke because it's got these artificial sweeteners in, which are proven carcinogenic, ingredients, but there's such a powerful company and corporation that it's just continuing, whereas the taxes should be huge on those drinks because they're addictive. So like we did V-Bites, meat, fish and dairy free options to wean the addict off, Green Cola is a brilliant brand that's done the same.
I buy it.
So Green Cola, stevia based, and I put them into America, into Whole Foods and H-E-B, and they do all sorts of different flavors. But it's stevia based, which is a slow releasing glycemic, so for diabetics and stuff, and it helps with peristaltic movement. It's not as good as water. Nothing's better than water, clean water, but it's the same kind of thing that we did with meat and dairy and fish alternatives. It's the stage 2. Because what happens is when you wean yourself, it's a bit like when we had full fat milk when we were little. And I used to just chuck mine in the plant pot at school because I hated it. And then we went to semi-skimmed.
The bottle of milk that you drink,
and it
with
was
a little
all
straw,
creamy
warm.
and gross. But
I still love it.
it's the same with plant milk now.
It's awful.
People, if they go from full fat to semi to skimmed, and then 10 years later they accidentally drink some full fat again. They go, oh, that's disgusting. That's what happens when your taste buds, your metabolism change when you go over to oat milk, and then 10 years later you accidentally drink normal milk. You can taste the pus in the milk because cow's milk is full of pus from the teats, and actually there's nothing harmful about the pus, but it's actually a clever way of showing all the crap that's in there. The harmful thing about milk in the UK is how much antibiotic is in it, and it's making all our kids antibiotic resistant. So even if you don't care about the plant-based of this, it's about what is in the food and the milk and the drinks like Diet Coke that you're putting in your kid's body.
Is that different with raw milk though? Is that why they can't? So raw milk you can only buy from the farm gate, can't you?
Yeah, raw milk's different, but it's still got an IGF growth factor hormone in it, which accelerates.
Because you give them the cow the thing, and then that comes out
the switch on. Yeah. So, but it's not as bad as intensively farmed cows or anything. It's still not healthy, but your body can handle 17% of animal protein, and scientifically proven now all over the world, up to 7%. And then the cancer gene switches on and off. So if you know where your balance is, you're fine. And when we were kids, that's all we would get. But now you get meat and dairy, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and you start stacking that up, and then things are switching on. Diabetes, cancers. You see people dropping like flies everywhere now because we're not made to consume that much animal protein because we're not baby cows.
Yeah.
I was going to go back at that. Just the word puss. It sounds like it is.
I know. I do.
Awful,
but it is. When you think about it, the teats, you know, your body can handle a lot of pus. It's not healthy, but in the milk, there's so much pus in milk. Like when you microanalyze it, because cows are not freely walking in the fields. That's 3% of the nation. They're plugged in. And their teats, it's like, if you stuck them on my boobs, I'm going to get infections after a while. It's the same with the teats. If they're just pumping all day and they're impregnated, the babies are taken away, they're impregnated again 5 times, then they're killed over a 5-year period. And they're attached all the time. You imagine the infection, the bacteria, the pus, and everything that goes from that.
Well, we need one more question because I can't end on that.
I can't end on well, you said ket.
I was gonna.
It's funny because I don't use that word. You know, you said ket.
I put ketchup. I put ketchup on the bottom of here.
Hate ketchup. Hate it.
No,
I don't understand.
That's great. We meant ket shop,
which is what I said before. Ket, as in sweeties, but I thought you said ketchup there.
I've never really put those two words together and thought ketchup.
I said it too fast.
I wonder if someone thought of it like that.
But last meal.
Have you got any ketchup?
Ketchup.
No one outside the north knows what
kets are.
No, because my dad used to.
My granddad used
or something.
Yeah, because my dad used to call them bullets.
Yeah, my granddad used to call them bullets, and he used to keep a tin of black bullets next to him, and there was just mint humbugs. That's pretty much what they were.
The ketchup was always, you went in and you had your 2 ounces, and if you were lucky, you had a quarter, and you get your sherbet lemons and all the different things. They still got one of those in Concord.
So what was your favourite?
Been there since I was a kid.
What was your favourite sweets then as a kid? What were you?
I like those really sharp, bittery.
Did you like rhubarb?
They were like snakes. And rhubarb and custard I like. The only thing is I used to suck on the rhubarb and custard so much I'd get cut.
Yeah, you got
mouth at the top because it would start to separate and start to cut away at your mouth.
That would have been from the acetic acid.
Yes, exactly. And I love do you remember the sherbet dib dabs?
Yeah,
sherbet dib dabs.
The sherbet dib dabs, I loved them when I was a kid.
I love sherbet dib dabs. She can eat like sherbet all day long. She loves that kind of stuff. More sweet, and my son's more chocolate.
I don't suggest it though. But you know how I was a chocoholic, and do you know how I got off being a chocoholic? By going on diabetic chocolate, even though I wasn't diabetic, because you wean the sugar load. And then eventually you end up giving up diabetic chocolate. And then I never thought I'd like dark chocolate because I used to hate it. I always liked milky. And that's why we made lots of vegan milky alternatives. But now I hardly have any chocolate. The only thing I'm still hooked on is Almond Bakewell vegan tarts. That's it.
What a thing to still be hooked on.
Yeah.
My favourite. It is. It's my favourite.
It's better than puss, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's better than puss, yeah. Now you mentioned puss.
Back on it again. Good question.
Just keep going because you keep mentioning the word puss all the time. Yeah. I'm a dark chocolate fan. I can't eat milk anymore, but dark chocolate for
But that's what happens because your taste buds have evolved.
We find that's the thing because I can smell sugar in a room if I walk in. It's like, who's got what?
My friend went to Cuba and they took them into a sugar factory And the first one smelled amazing. And they went, oh, and they said, yeah, this is what we use. And then the second one was a little bit more bitter. They said, this is what we send to such and such. And then the third one was pure white. And they went, oh, it smells like bleach. And they went, yes, that's what we send to you in England.
That's what I used to,
It's got bleach in it.
When I worked at Tradecraft, I used to travel to Mauritius because we used to source Demerara sugar, and the smell of it was incredible.
Yeah.
But when you see it go through the process to it becoming a refined white sugar, it's awful.
Horrifying.
It's export
It should
product.
be illegal.
Yeah,
It's
it
mad.
should be.
But it doesn't put people off, though, does it?
Well, it doesn't, because they don't want to know when they're addicted.
You don't see it, yeah.
And it's about weaning people off.
Yeah.
And the only way you wean people off is you give them an alternate similar, and then eventually they're off that, like you're now loving dark chocolate. It happens. It just takes some people 6 months, some people X years.
Can I go?
Some people, it takes them a shock that they're going to die.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
Peter Aldous, Holland and Barrett, rest his soul. For years, we were with in Holland and Barrett as V-Bites for 20 odd years. And he had type 1 diabetes. And I said, if you do not sort your health out, you're going to die. Oh, no. I said, you're the head of a health food store and you've got the worst diet in the world. And then next year, his toe gets amputated. And I went, oh, this is the big warning, because this is diabetes first stage. If you don't change it now, you're not going to last the year. And he just went, oh, I'll just, get the amputated. I mean, you got your toe amputated. If you can't change your diet by
He was that
then.
dismissive about it. Just
So dismissive, and he was dead within a year. Awful.
That's mad, isn't it?
I mean, so
having
most
the toe lopped
people
off is
would
not
wake
enough.
up at that point and go, whoa,
Yeah.
this is my
It's
last
huge,
chance.
yeah.
But no, he just thought he could live forever. He was such a brilliant character, but it was really sad.
yeah.
One last question. Your last meal, what you having? Only 2 courses, though.
I'm having roast potatoes because they're my favourite thing in the world, and everyone calls them Mills potatoes because I parboil them and then I score them and then I drizzle them with coconut oil and cover them in rosemary, and I can eat. I mean, I had them yesterday, about 12.
You can eat 12
then-
roast potatoes.
Yeah,
I love knowing that.
love roast potatoes
Yeah.
because it's not a FODMAP, so it doesn't bother my tummy at all. People like sit and go, how does she eat those roast potatoes? But I'm not eating them every day, but that's my favourite. And then I would have my vegan chocolate eclairs with a souffle, because I can make amazing vegan souffles when people think you need eggs and you don't.
What you having to drink with that?
I'm having a glass of Californian Chardonnay Farniente.
Chardonnay, nice option.
Very oaky.
Just going for the alcohol with the food? Or
Very oaky,
I disagree
yeah.
with, but never mind.
If I'm about to die, definitely probably the bottle.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it's not a nice wine, I don't drink.
Yeah.
So I'd rather wait and have a really nice wine. If I go to those parties where they're just pouring stuff out, I just don't bother because it's like vinegar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you give me a really nice bottle, and if it's the winter, then a really nice Cabernet or Merlot or something.
So it depends on when the last meal is.
Yeah, if summer or winter. Yeah. If it's
What a
sunshine.
caveat. I hadn't thought about that.
Which
What
one would you... Because we were thinking, where are you when you're eating this? Because we had John change his mind from steak to full English.
Because I just keep on...
I'm on the top of a mountain
top
in
of a mountain?
Austria
Okay.
where I did all my ski racing. Sun is out, sitting on the deck and watching people ski by. And when I die, I've said I want to be burnt after, if there's anything left to give to science, because that would be a hell of a study. And then I want all my ashes scattered over the mountain out of an aeroplane.
It'll smell like rosemary after the potatoes.
Hopefully.
What a nice way to end the podcast.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Heather. That's been great.
Yes,
Lovely.
thank you so much.
Great to chat to
Are
you.
you ready
both.
for your Polaroid?
Now we're going to do a
Yeah.
Polaroid at the end. Is that all right? Yeah.
Old style. You should take photos of Polaroids because they do fade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got like 50 of them and no one's left on them anymore
Yeah,
from
like
20
a
years
bit like
ago.
Marty off,
Marty McFly off Back to the
Back to the
Future. when
Future.
it
I'm
feels-
going
Yeah.
to see on Friday night, I'm going to see Back to the Future again for the second time in London.
Yeah.
My partner's taking me for our 6th anniversary
What, the original
as a
film?
surprise.
Yeah.
No, the musical.
Oh, the
It's
musical.
amazing.
I didn't even know there was a musical.
Literally, You know, when he took me the first time, I thought, he knows I love Michael J. Fox. That was my crush when I was younger. And I said,
cool, though,
He was cool.
he said, we're going to see Back to the Future because I love theatre.
Yeah,
I was like, musical theatre for Back to the Future. It was genius. The car flies over your head. The characters are identical.
Really?
Identical.
Okay, that sounds good.
And that's still running in London.
Yes. If you can get there before it ends,
Right.
it is amazing.
Have you got 2 spare tickets?
No.
No?
You've got to travel back to the future.
Yeah. And you don't have Sting's number, do you?
I'll go and watch it and go back again, and then I'll come and give you.
Yeah, give us a review.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
Okay, fair enough. That's the best we're going to get. That's fine. All right. Thanks, Heather. Lovely.
Great to talk to you.
Perfect. Good stuff.
Cool.
Is that all right?